Yusef Komunyakaa, born on April 29, 1947 in Louisiana, is an American poet. His real name is James Williams Brown, but he goes by Yusef Komunyakaa because that was the name of his great-grandfather. He lost that name on the boat to America from Trinidad. Yusef currently teaches at NYU and is a member of the Fellowship of Southern Writers. Komunyakaa is a recipient of the 1994 Kingsley Tufts Poetry Award for his poem, Neon Vernacular, and the 1994 Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. He also received the Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize. Komunyakaa received the 2007 Louisiana Writer Award for his enduring contribution to the poetry world. Yusef was not always a poet. He served 1 year in Vietnam during the war as a news reporter. When he returned was when his wonderful career in poetry began. Many of Yusef's first few poems were about jazz, but as he began to write more and more poetry, his poems got a little bit more sophisticated and started talking about more important things like life. Yusef's most popular poem is called Believing in Iron. Here is the poem. The hills my brother and I created never balanced, and it took years to discover how the world worked. We could look at a tree of blackbirds and tell how many were there, but with the scrap dealer, our math was always off. Weeks of lifting and grunting never added up to much, but we couldn't stop believing in iron. Abandoned trucks and cars were held to the ground by thick, nostalgic fingers of vines. Strong as dozens sharecroppers, we'd return with our wheelbarrow, groaning under the new load. Yet tigers, lilies, lived better in the languid August domain among papers and Coke bottles. Foundry smoke erased sunsets, and we couldn't believe iron. Left men bent so close to this earth as if ore under their breath weighed down the gray sky. Sometimes I dreamt how our hills washed into the sea of metal, how it became an anchor for a warship or bomber, out over trees with blooms too red to look at. Another one of Yusef's greatest poems is Potions, and this is how it goes. The old woman made mint candy for the children who'd bolt through her front door, silhouettes of the great blue heron. She sold $10 potions from a half-lit kitchen, Chinese boxes furnished with flyers and sinkers, sassafras and lizard tongues. They'd walk out of the woods or drive in from cities, clutching love-stick dollar bills. At a side door they opened beside a cinnaberry tree. Did their eyes doubt under Orion as voices of dead spoke? They carried photos, locks of hair, nail clippings, and the first 3 words of a wish. Blackberries is another famous poem by Yusef Komunyakaa. Here's a poetic analysis that I did on it. This poem tells the story of a boy out picking blackberries in a thicket in the woods. The juice leaves his hands stained from the juicy berries as they dripped onto the ground. He eats some and collects others, daydreaming and thinking about mythology and history. His dog Spot is with him and keeps eyeing the birds. A car passes him when he nears the road, and 2 children smirking at him from the back seat bring him back down to earth.